What is good, YouTube? I am here with my Swordsoul deck profile. The recent reprints, I feel Swordsoul is now a top contender for one of the best budget decks in the game. Today, I had it with a specific mindset of having it under $30. I feel like that's not including the hand traps though, because I feel if you already have the hand traps for your other decks, you can just kind of buy the Swordsoul core for under $30. And even if you included the hand traps, even then, I think cards like Effect Veiler, Nib, Infinite Impermanence, Droll and Lockbird, they're all like $1 and under cards anyways. It would only add a few more dollars to the deck. But again, Swordsoul is such a old, reliable deck and is very linear and also I feel like a great beginner deck. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump straight into the deck profile. So we have our main normal summon of the deck. Best card in the deck, I feel like, is our Swordsoul Mo Ye. You want to normal summon Swordsoul Mo Ye every time, hopefully always draw her, and then you show a war monster from your hand, and then she gets you a token. So she is pretty much a one card, level 8 synchro monster just by herself, and then when she gets sent to the graveyard, she also gets to draw you a card. Then we have 3 Swordsoul Strategist Longyuan. Special summon himself from the hand by sending a war monster or Swordsoul monster from your hand to the graveyard, and then he gets you a token, and then when he gets used to create a synchro monster, you then get to burn your opponent for 1200 life points. Then we have 2 Swordsoul Tai A's. I feel like with Swordsoul Tai A, he is a great going second card or great later game starter as opposed to Mo Ye, just because you need a worm monster or Swordsoul monster in your graveyard to kind of get him to get you a token. And then when he gets sent to the graveyard, you get to send one of your Tenyi monsters to the graveyard. Then with having budget in mind, I am only playing one new Tenyi Spirit Surya. With this one, I feel like it is the only card above $10 in the entire deck. So just having one of it is good enough because you can kind of have your other monsters kind of added to the hand. And we're also only running 2 Incredible Ecclesia. This can also be bumped to 3, however, with budget in mind. It is over, I think it's like a $2 card. However, it is getting reprinted in a couple of weeks, so it will most likely be a 25-cent card, hopefully, with the new alternative art coming out in the future. In case you don't know what this card does, if you control a war monster or face-up non-effect monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a worm synchro monster, you can special summon one Tenyi link monster from your extra deck, but it cannot be used as link material. Then you lose life points equal to its link rating times 1000. So again, it is an extender, and then it also gets you a Tenyi on board just to kind of use your other Tenyi monsters from the graveyard to kind of go off. If you want to play like the old standard Swordsoul lines, you actually really don't need this card, but I do just have one of them in here. You can also cut it as well. Then to go into the worm monsters, we have 2 Tenyi Spirit Adhara, 3 Ashuna, 2 Vishuda, and then 1 Shtana. A lot of people don't play this one. I really like it because it can kind of, if they do stop one of your monsters and then you have a token on board, you can kind of go into Shtana and then kind of combo off from there. Then of course with Ashuna, I feel like is one of the best ones. So you want to play it at 3. And with Vishuda being a great going second card, and then Adhara just being a tuner, they're good at 2 each as well. Then we have our arch nemesis Proto. So he is one of the main reasons why the deck is somewhat viable and able to, I guess, be competitive, if you want to call it that, just because Protoss is such a strong card recently off the ban list. Being able to call dark or light, I feel like is one of the best reasons to play Swordsoul, because you call light, you're pretty much stopping Rizio decks. If you call dark, you're stopping Malice decks, and it's just very strong against the current meta. Then our only pretty much one card starter that really doesn't rely on other cards is Swordsoul Emergence, because if you add Tai A, you can then banish Swordsoul Emergence from your graveyard and kind of create your synchro monster. So Swordsoul Emergence is probably I would say the best card in the deck, next to Mo Ye. 1 Vessel, 1 of the new field spells, Tenyifinity, and 1 Heavenly Dragon Circle. So you use Tenyifinity to kind of grab either one of these and kind of dig deeper into your deck and kind of combo off even further. Tenyifinity is one of the new cards, and so when this card is activated, you can add 1 Vessel or Heavenly Dragon Circle from your deck to your hand. And then we have our new Tenyi Spirit Mula Adhara, which can then add you your Tenyifinity. You can also add 1 Flawless Perfection if you do want to have another additional card in your deck. I just feel like it's not needed. It makes the ceiling a little higher, but then also adds another brick to your deck. Then to finish off, we have Swordsoul Blackout. Swordsoul Blackout is pretty much one of the staples. You can do so many things with it. You can banish it from your deck and create a token if you need to, or you can just add it to your hand and then it pops one of your cards and you can pop 2 of theirs. Then to finish off the deck, we have 1 Called By. Since we're not running more Charmers, I feel like Called By is essential. Then we have 3 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Ash Blossom, and 3 Solemn Strike. So with all these cards, I feel like with Swordsoul being so low to the ground and not really having the strongest end board, if you can somehow end on a Protos and like a Yugioh or a Tenyi, just pretty much Protos and any of your synchro monsters, and hopefully one of these hand traps, I feel like is strong enough to kind of survive the game and kind of go from there. Cards like Nib and Droll are very high impact, and then Solemn Strike is just a great end board piece, along with Called By, to kind of stop any Charmies that your opponent is most likely playing if you're in a competitive scene. Then cards like Ash Blossom are just very staple as well. Now to go into the extra deck, we are running 2 Grandmaster Yugioh. He's mainly the one you're going to always go into just because he kind of is your card that Mo Ye kind of goes into, because then he can then dig into your deck and then add you a Swordsoul monster, usually Longyuan, even Blackout, pretty much whatever you need to kind of go into your combos. He can also has the quick effect. You can banish 1 Swordsoul card or 1 Worm monster from your hand or graveyard, then target 1 other effect monster on the field and negate its effect. So he's also an end board piece to negate a monster. Then we have the new Tenyi Spirit Mula Adhara. Kind of reminds me of a lot of the old school Fire Fist cards. Really beautiful artwork. In case you don't know what this does, so if this card is synchro summoned and 2 or more War monsters are in your graveyard, which you usually do if you have either one of your Tenyi cards or your Swordsoul cards will be in the graveyard, you can then add 1 field spell from your deck to your hand. So then you add the field spell, then kind of go off from there. Then to finish off the Swordsoul stuff, we have our Qisheng and our Longyuan. So now that Baron de Floor is banned, I feel like our Longyuan is our next best one, just because with so many field spells going in the game today, I feel like when someone activates a field spell, you can not only burn them for 1200, but then you can also banish the field spell. Then it can also banish a special summon monster as well. So with cards like Malice, not really Malice, I feel like it's a bad example, but cards like Yugioh especially, when they're special summoning themselves, you can just go ahead and banish them straight out. So having ability to banish a field spell and a monster is just really strong. So I feel like typically the monster I want to end with. Then you have a couple utility cards. We have Dragite. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card while a water monster is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can negate the activation if you do destroy it. So usually you have Mo Ye in the graveyard, hopefully, and then it is a spell or trap negate. So just a different utility piece. And then you have Draco Berserker, just one of the old school banish cards that Swordsoul can go into as well. Then our go in second cards, we have the Tenyi cards, the bounce, and then the pop. Then our links, and then also just a random SP Little Knight. This can be replaced with other budget alternatives such as Psychic and Punisher, other Swordsoul cards as well, or even a third Monk of the Tenyi. If you want to add a third of that, you can replace SP Little Knight. I like SP Little Knight and then Swordsoul just because it gives you different utility to kind of go into if you need to. So that wraps up the extra deck. So now I'm going to kind of go into a little test hand to kind of show you what the deck can do, what to expect if you were running this specific version of the deck, what kind of power and test hand you would typically see. So we have Vishuda, so decent going second, Solemn Strike, Ash Blossom, Called By, okay, might be bricking, and no. So we have 2 Tenyis. Okay, this is interesting actually. I'm not going to be able to show you the Swordsoul stuff, but even better, I feel like showing you what the Tenyis can do, which is a little more complicated. I feel the Swordsoul line is very linear. When people are learning the deck, I feel like the Swordsoul stuff comes really fast, and the Tenyi stuff is what comes after. So with this specific hand in mind, actually, it is pretty much a 2-card combo that the deck does. So we can go ahead and special summon Ashuna because we do not control any monsters. From here, we can go ahead and link Ashuna off and go into our Monk of the Tenyi. So Ashuna gets sent to the graveyard. Since we don't have any effect monsters, we can go ahead and special summon Vishuda. Make sure you want to do this next because if you did this one before, you wouldn't be able to special summon Vishuda because Ashuna can then banish himself from the graveyard and special summon a Tenyi monster from the deck. We're going to go ahead and go into Adhara. So now we have a level 7 and a level 1 tuner, which is very important. Okay. So from here, we can go into the Mula Adhara stuff, or we can just go with the typical old school Swordsoul stuff and synchro these two off and get a Grandmaster Shiloh. So if this card is synchro summoned, you can add to your hand or banish one Swordsoul from your deck. So now we have two monsters in hand. So Mo Ye would not be good because Mo Ye needs a link, or actually, you know, we could do Mo Ye because then we can go ahead and banish Adhara to add Ashuna. So we're gonna go ahead and do Mo Ye, or we could even just go ahead and do Tai A and then kind of go from there. But for now, we'll just do Mo Ye. Now we can go ahead and activate Adhara's effect to banish himself from the graveyard. In case you don't, I'll go ahead and show you what Adhara does. You can banish this card from your hand or graveyard, then target one of your banished war monsters, except this card added to your hand. So we can now go ahead and add back our Ashuna to our hand, and that gives us a card for Mo Ye to kind of go off. So we then normal summon Mo Ye, reveal Ashuna. Mo Ye gets a token on board. So from here, I feel like we have two options. We can go into our Spell and Trap Negate, now that we have a water monster in the graveyard, or we can go into our Berserker of the Tenyi. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish it. So it really depends. So we have a monster negate or a banish. I think we're just going to go ahead and go into our Dragite and then activate Mo Ye's effect to draw a card. And Mo Ye's effect to draw a card, we get Swordsoul Blackout. Okay, so this is actually really good because we have Ashuna for the next turn in case we need to do something with it. We have 3 cards to set. So we actually have very powerful on board, I feel like, if we were not stopped by a hand trap, of course. So we have a monster negate and a spell and trap negate. We can pop our Monk of the Tenyi, then pop 2 cards. We have Solemn Strike and Called by the Grave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards with Ash Blossom. This is actually 6 negates. And what's even crazier is we did not use any of the new Swordsoul or Tenyi cards that were released. This is just a typical old school Swordsoul end board, and just shows you why the deck is so popular and why the deck has remained good and rogue for so many years. And again, if you didn't want to do Draco, you could also do Berserker and have a banish. But again, for this end board, we drew Called by the Grave and Solemn Strike, drew Swordsoul Blackout, have Ash in hand, Spell and Trap negate, Monster negate, and we also have our Vishuda in hand that can banish itself during our next turn and bounce one of their cards if we have a non-effect monster on the field. So just really diverse end board and very strong, actually. But yeah, so I think that's all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you guys in the next video.